What's up, everybody? It's Andre Iguodala from the Golden State Warriors here. It's my pleasure on behalf of New Amendment and the Point Forward podcast to invite you all out on Friday, March 10th to Beyond the Big Ten live recording taking place at Over Under Sports Bar in Lincoln Park, Chicago. That's Friday, March 10th at Over Under from 3 to 7 p.m. Look forward to catching y'all there.
Welcome to this new episode of the Are You Listening podcast, brought to you by New Amendment. Geo, what up? How is the week going on your side?
My dog, it's good, man. It's going. Obviously, happy Rutgers Basketball got a win over Penn State. Somehow got a win. Not sure how they pulled that one off. But for me personally, everything's been going well. Been staying in the gym, with all my kids doing this basketball training, man. It's starting to grow a little bit too. So it's getting fun and competitive, especially now that the high school and middle school seasons are starting to end. So it's been cool, man. Your week's been all right.
Week has been great, man. It's busy. That time of the year, that end of March is a grind. You know how the season is. But doing these both jobs, man, it's been kicking my ass a little bit. But I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, sir.
For sure, man.
I feel that, though. I definitely feel that.
Need a vacation for sure, man.
Yo, that's how I'm feeling too. Some of my friends keep hitting me up like, yo, where are we going? Some people saying Mexico. I'm trying to go to Greece.
What you got in your mind?
I'm trying to go to Greece, man, like Mykonos or something. I think that's a little different. Last summer I went to Punta Cana, so trying to switch it up a little bit.
Love it. I'm thinking tropical and crystal clear blue waters, Turks and Caicos or something.
Anything's on the table, though. Anything's on the table. I just need
I need something.
I need something, man.
Out of the Northeast in this nasty ass weather that we got this week.
For real.
Obviously, as you just alluded to, a lot of exciting things. Are you pulling out a big dub? And we'll get to that momentarily. 2 games to recap once we switch segments with Michigan and Penn State. One question I have for you before we jump into anything. I was out at Penn State for the game, and I had the fortune of going around campus a little bit because we had some downtime. It was State Patty's Day. They just had Thon recently. Have you ever gone or had a chance to peruse around other college campuses and felt like, yo, I could see myself here and this is actually kind of lit like Rutgers?
I don't think so. I don't think I ever had time. For real. Not even saying like I looked around and I was like, oh, this looks cool, because I'm sure they're all. Big Ten. Everybody's lit in the Big Ten, but I never had time. I felt like I was pretty locked in on the road. I never and shit, I don't play no more. I would tell you if I was outside. I would say it. I would tell you on the road I was messing around, but I wasn't. I was scared. Shit, I didn't want to.
That's a good point.
I didn't want to go. I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to get in trouble or anything like that. And you got to remember, I was the captain for 4 years. If I'm messing around, everybody gonna go oh, Geo going? Yeah, we outside. Everyone would have done it too. So I never really went around the campuses. Honestly, everything I've heard has just been word of mouth. Oh yeah, Michigan's lit or Wisconsin's lit, but I never actually saw the campuses, stuff like that.
Nah, I respect that. That's true. And most players, I feel, will have that same sentiment. You're locked in. You're on a mission. You're going to go do a job when you go to these opposing teams' campuses. I think more so now as a spectator and a commentator, I have a chance to kind of see what these schools are like. And although Penn State is in the middle of nowhere, the campus is really nice. And it feels like Rutgers. It was like the bar scene, the way the campus was laid out, and then the people that were there as well were very reminiscent of the people that Rutgers draws as well.
I've heard that. I've heard that that's lit, and I heard it's like Rutgers too. I feel like a lot of Jersey people go over there too. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to go to Rutgers. I'd rather go to Penn State. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of the reason. It's it kind of feels like Rutgers, but at least you're out of state and you're not staying home in New Jersey. So I get the reasoning and the thinking behind it when people do that.
For sure. And they had the Are You hungry out there? And I hate having that conversation
For real?
With people from Penn State. They always act as if it originated at Penn State when it's literally called Are You Hungry?
Yeah, I didn't even know they had one out there.
Yeah, they have it out there. It was interesting to see.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. But good week nonetheless. Excited to start to get into postseason play. Big Ten tournament right around the corner. Can't wait for that. Got dudes out here chirping because they team got a couple of dubs recently. So you know how that goes. We'll save that for another episode.
For sure. We're going to save it.
Yeah.
They waited a long time. We could wait a long time too.
When they go low, we go high. That No, I'm joking. But at the end of the day, really excited for RU for a multitude of reasons. So let's get right into the X's and O's of things. Starting out with Michigan. Obviously, RU needed a dub, and coming off the heels of that Wisconsin game, which was huge without Caleb McConnell, coming back to Jersey Mike's Arena, blackout game. Did you have a chance to go to the game?
I was at the game. I was there. Yeah, man. It was there was so much energy at the beginning. Like, I remember sitting in there just thinking like, oh, this is gonna be one of those games where it gets super loud. Like, obviously the rack's always loud, but like, I'm thinking in my head it's gonna be one of those games. You know what I mean? Where it's like you kind of played against one of your. Obviously, Michigan's not a rival, but
to your point, what did you see before the game? Because I heard that the line was up the street and around the corner.
It was crazy. I was there a few hours early. You know, I'm chilling in the practice facility. I was over there just hanging out, and I'm looking outside, and the line is just to the road, to the main road, like where Kilmer's is and stuff like that. Like, I'm like, and this is 2 hours before the game. So I think Rutgers Athletics did a great job of like marketing the game, because I mean they're always gonna put out emails and stuff like that. It's game day, but like this is the most I saw on social media, blackout and get to the game early, be loud, all these different things. I thought they did a great job marketing it, where people were just genuinely excited to be in the gym. Plus, you also have to think about, it was an important game for seeding. I think a lot of people were just very, ready to go, ready to get in the gym and support RU. So that's what I mean. I thought the energy was great at the beginning, but just wasn't a lot to get loud about as the game went on, which
it was
which happens.
Fucking Michigan, bro. And you know how that whole dynamic is. And I think I didn't play in the Big Ten, but now that I work in the city, when you meet people that graduate from certain institutions, they have this real particular air to them, if you will. Walk around with their pinky up. And Michigan is one of those institutions, I would say. But you got to respect them. Got to respect them. Yeah, phenomenal academics, phenomenal athletics. So they have a huge target on their back, even when they're not having the most phenomenal year from, a record standpoint. You want to beat these guys. So I think that's also what was part of the draw and the allure of having this team come into town.
Yeah, it's always a brag, just like beat Michigan. Like, I mean, even when we did it for the first time last year, I mean, I felt great. Like, and everyone felt great about it. There were so many tweets, so many social media posts about Rutgers, finally beat Michigan. So I definitely agree. I think it's just like it's some sort of bragging rights that you get, because Michigan is one of those, blue bloods, really. So
for sure, you gotta respect them dudes, man. They got guys on the squad too. Getting into the game, I called it for Rutgers radio. Michigan ended up winning 58-45, and it was an interesting flow, but the atmosphere was crazy right from the rip. Had Isaiah Pacheco walk in, Super Bowl champ, really, the crowd was going crazy. Yeah. Jim Jackson, FS1, prime time. Jim Jackson's definitely one of my favorite commentators to tune into. I think he does a phenomenal job as well. So the opportunity was there, man. And as you just alluded to, RU 1-15 in the overall series. So it's always that big brother dynamic. So you want to get this dub, and people were chirping. RU had lost 4 out of the last 5 games, after starting really, really hot. And obviously that's a testament to the importance of Mawat Mag after that injury, and RU still trying to solidify itself and its identity post that injury. And, at the end of the day, you got to come out and try to get that dub. And it was tough. RU, I think one of the things that was difficult, they had a out of ordinary night from the free throw line, shooting 5 of 16. Yep. And then scoring was just not something that they did well. Only 45 points in total.
Yeah, man. I mean, offense has been rough. Even in the win over Penn State. I mean, it's hasn't been pretty. And you said it with the free throws like that. That just hurts you mentally too, because that's something that these guys have been doing well the entire year. And then something that's so simple as, a free shot is, you're now missing these too. So it's super tough on these guys. And then on top of that, I thought like the guys were, arguing with each other, kind of like pointing fingers at each other. And that's when it gets really hard because you're already facing adversity, right? You're already playing bad on offense. You have 13 turnovers on offense. Stuff isn't going well. That's when you need to come even more together. Like that's when everyone really needs to be more together. And we didn't really see that with Michigan. So I thought that hurt them even more and was a tough sign. But obviously fast forward to Penn State, I thought they did a lot better job with that.
Yeah, for sure. To kind of put the bow on Michigan as well, 13 turnovers, and Michigan capitalized. And big scoring nights for Doug McDaniel, the highly touted freshman, 16 points. And Hunter Dickinson, 13 points. And Kobe Buffkin, 14. And then RU got a break before the game with the absence of, Jet Howard. And obviously he's come on, and they got pros on this team. So it was there for the taking.
Yep, it was. It was. Now, they definitely dropped one, but that's the way college basketball goes. That's the way Big Ten basketball goes. It's a tough league. I mean, you look at the standings, how close everybody is. You gotta bring your A game every single day, and they didn't. They didn't bring their A game, so that's what happens. You get what you deserve in that scenario. So, but they hung in there for the next game against Penn State.
For sure, man. That's a excellent transition, if you will, out to Happy Valley. This over the weekend, Sunday contest against the Nittany Lions. RU with the largest comeback victory since the early 1996 against
96.
Pittsburgh. 19 points down. They weren't scoring the ball well, but I love some of these post-game quotes afterwards, and we'll get into those. But RU beats Penn State 59-56. The Derek Simpson game, if you will, 16 points for the young ball. And loved the defensive intensity of Caleb McConnell in the second half.
Yep.
Jalen Pickett came out strong, man, and he was getting into the paint with will. He plays off too phenomenally.
He's tough.
The reverse pivots, the creation of space, the fadeaways, man, and he's built like a linebacker, man. So he's sturdy. You're not going to knock him off of balance. And then 11 points in the first half. Caleb McConnell limited him to 0 points in the second half. So guys understood the responsibility.
He didn't even take a shot, I don't think, in the second half. I mean, that's
crazy.
That's crazy. That's a crazy stat. I mean, I think the 3 games before that, he was averaging like 30 points. like what? And you don't even take a shot in the second half. So, big credit to Caleb, big credit to the guys. I thought that they did a great job of doubling him when he did catch it, closer to the basket, some of those spots where he normally gets his way. And then, also on the dribble drives too, I thought they did a great job of just collapsing, everybody kind of helping each other and, really taking on the identity of team defense. Like everyone helped Caleb when he needed it, when he was out on the wing too. So I thought overall, a great defensive stand in the second half. And the thing I was most impressed with the team was what I had talked about earlier, where everyone was coming apart during the Penn State game. That didn't happen. Like everyone was still locked in no matter what the score was. You didn't see any bickering, any arguing. No one was pointing fingers at each other. Everyone stayed the course. And that's the only thing you can do. Like at the end of the day, like there are going to be games where you lose. There are going to be games where you win. But how are you reacting to it? And I thought the guys reacted the right way. Everyone was staying together. And they got stops when they needed to. It wasn't pretty. It was another game under 60 points. But figuring out a way to win has to feel good, and thinking ahead to Minnesota, like that's the perfect game to get your offense in rhythm. So, you're happy that you survived this game, and now you try to fix the problems in the next one.
Yeah, and just to accentuate the defensive dominance for RU, that's obviously been the saving grace, even when the offense hasn't really been too prolific. Defense ranks top 20 nationally in field goal percentage, 8th at 38.9%, scoring defense 8th at 59.8%, steals 23rd, 8th, 3-point defense 19th, and then they lead the Big Ten in all those individual statistical categories as well. So thinking about that collectively, any good team is the sum of its parts. And the news comes out, obviously, Caleb McConnell, semifinalist for the Naismith Defensive Player of the Year award. Do you think he has a shot this year to get it?
He has a shot. I mean, there's some great defenders in the country, of course, but Caleb's proven it time and time again. Jalen Pickett is the perfect example. Like, you just held a dude to 0 points in the second half who's been on a tear. Like, a tear. I mean, this dude is a pro. Jalen Pickett is a pro. Guaranteed. Like, the way he plays, he has a perfect pro game. He gets to his spots. He's mature. He knows how to score. And
you got the size, too. 6'4".
Right, got the size. Exactly. Like, he has the full package. And Caleb, I mean, he shut him down. Not only did he didn't score, he didn't shoot. And their offense looked awful. Like, Penn State's offense looked awful in the second half. A lot of over dribbling, not really making the extra pass, guys missing shots, contested, Rutgers getting steals. And that's credit to Caleb. Caleb is the head of the snake when it comes to that. So, I think he absolutely has a chance at getting the Defensive Player of the Year in the country for sure.
For sure. And that's the defensive side. Offensively, it's still, to your point earlier, it was ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And they needed to find the hot hand. And right. I love the adjustment by Steve Pikiell at half, considering Caleb McConnell had 3 fouls going into halftime to start Derek Simpson after he started to get going under 2 minutes left. And to ride, the freshman for the duration of the game, and he made big plays. You love to see it.
Yeah.
16 points, career high, and then at the end of the game, giving all credit to the big fellas, Cliff Amore and Antoine Woolfolk, for setting phenomenal screens to be able to get him open and to be able to get downhill.
Oh, I loved it. I mean, so for those who don't know, Luke Nathan is my roommate. So like, I live with Luke Nathan. We were watching the game together, and I was telling him like, yo, they just need give the ball to Derek. Like, I'm telling you, just leave Derek in there. Like, and then he started making play after play after play, and started to get more comfortable. I was so happy. And then the fact that Pike started him in the second half too, I've never seen Coach Pike do that. I've never seen Coach Pike do that. He's like, his starters are his starters for that game. He always does that. It doesn't matter the foul situation, anything. So the fact that he was, able to switch up his game plan just a little bit, because I know he does not like doing that. I think he's a superstitious man as well. Like, this is the way Pike is. Like, the fact that he was, willing to do that and change it up, showed a lot of maturity on his end, and then a lot of trust too for Derek. Like, Derek can play, man. He knows how to make plays, and really the offense was getting better, but they were doing really simple actions. The announcers were talking about it a little bit. They were just continuously running chest middle. So if you guys watched the game, you probably heard the announcers talking about it. Chest middle is literally just a weave into a middle ball screen. That's what chest middle is. So you're getting guys to just literally, you're getting guys to move just a little bit. You're getting guys to move, side to side just a little bit with the weave action. One guy kind of cuts through, get his guy to move a little bit off of the eye, which is the middle of the floor on defense. You want to always be on that eye if the ball's on the opposite side of you. Try to get that guy to move just a little bit, and then you're going downhill off of a ball screen. That's what chest middle is. And I thought they made the right reads off of it every time, whether it was Derek into a little pull-up, a little drive and kick. There was a roll rise where a guy was rising up. You hit the rise guy for a 3. I think Caleb hit the 3 on it. So it was the same action every time, but they were just making the right reads. And at the end of the day, people love to talk about how, Coach Michael isn't running plays, or Rutgers offense isn't all that. You need guys who can make plays too. Like, the play is the same as it's always been. It's just that you had the guy in the right position to make the play and make the right reads, and guys knock down open shots. And that's when the offense looked the best. You got a guy who's getting downhill making plays.
It's called a college basketball program. You just cycle these dudes in and out,
right?
And they come in and learn how to play in the right way,
right?
And you see the same type of results at the end of it. So, really, really phenomenal job by the young boy, again, stepping up when the team needed him most. Because listen, if you lose that game, that was a quad 1 victory right there for the taking, and you needed it. You needed it at the end of the day. And it wasn't just Derek, man. You had Cliff Amore, another double-double, 13 rebounds. And you had Oscar Palmquist hit, big shots, two 3-pointers off the bench as well. And I know she started that game, 2 3-pointers, after being, integrated into the starting lineup again. So that was really, really big. And then how about Cam Spencer down in crunch time, big time steal on Seth Lundy, after they had 3 opportunities to try to change the outcome of the game, and you need a defensive stop, you come up with it.
Yeah, and Caleb, we mentioned him on defense. I thought he played pretty good on offense as well. He had a couple turnovers early, but didn't turn it over again as the game went on. Made 2 threes. He was getting to his mid-range, backing guys down, getting to his spot. I think I forget what he was, 5 for 12 from the floor, I think. That's just off the top of my head. So it was an efficient game for him too. So, I thought he played well on offense too.
And then it gets RU its 10th win in Big Ten play this year. That's a monumental number. Obviously very hard to do when you look at some of the other records and how close in the parity it is in the middle of the pack. Excuse me. And then 3 straight wins against Penn State as well. So talk about a game of styles and matchups and a game of programs against programs. And it's hard to go out to Happy Valley and play. And this is my second consecutive year of going out there and just seeing how that environment is. And that's just one of those places. And for them to come back from that far down and to be able to pull a dub after it didn't look honestly like it was going to be a positive outcome at the end of the first half. That was crazy night and day.
It didn't look good at all, man. And it's funny. I was sitting there just watching and laughing, damn, here we go again at Penn State. Always happens at Penn State where it's we just come out slow and sloppy and we're down 15 to 20 points. It just always feels that way. And I was texting Caleb after the game, and he was saying that he said he was laughing because he was like, man, it's happening again. I'm like, yo, that's just how it goes, man. So, but I'm real proud of the guys for, like I said earlier, just staying together and, not bickering, because it's easy to go the other way. It is hard to stay together. It is hard to be positive when you're not playing your best basketball. You just lost to Michigan at home. What can happen if you lose this game. You probably got to win your next 2. So it's a lot easier to split apart and point fingers and be mad at each other. It's a lot harder to do what they did and come together, get stops, and really just be a special basketball team. It was really impressive to see. And obviously there's a lot of stuff they need to work on the offensive end. You're not going to win a lot of games with the points they've been scoring recently. But, at this point in the season, it's not about that. It's about survive and advance. NCAA tournament is about survive and advance. Big Ten tournament is about survive and advance. So if there's an issue, you don't worry about it during the game. You try to figure it out for the next one. And Minnesota is the perfect game to really try to figure out your offensive rhythm.
Yeah. I think that, and we'll get to that in a second. I had one other follow-up point in question. Are you 17-2 when holding teams to 65 points and below, 8-0 in the Big Ten when able to do that? Is that a recipe for success to be able to make it deep in March in the NCAA run? What do you think would have to be a change, or is this something that is sustainable for them to be able to, do something that hasn't been done in a while? And let's try to make a round of 32 or a Sweet 16 game if you are a Rutgers basketball fan.
Here's my thing. I think it's tough, and I'll say it because of my experience and also how other Big Ten teams have done in the past. I think the Big Ten is the best scouting league in the country. So I think Coach Michael does a great, and you've seen the scouts too yourself. So they do a great job of scouting their opponent. And the NCAA tournament, so for the first game, you get a solid amount of time for that scout. But for that next one, you don't. There's not a big time period to figure out your opponent. So the scout is tough. It's hard. You don't get used to the other team. So if you have a offensive juggernaut coming in who runs all these different plays and you don't have a lot of time to scout it, that's tough for a defensive team. It doesn't matter how you could have 5 Caleb McConnells on the floor. If he doesn't know the other team's plays, it just makes it harder to play defense. That's just how it goes. So I think that's going to be the toughest thing for them moving forward if they're going to try to stay with that recipe. Is it doable? I mean, sure, but it's tough. And that's why March Madness is what it is, because there's such a quick turnaround time. There isn't scout. It's really just about who's playing the best. Yeah,
I think that is fair enough. I was I'm always interested because people like to find a million different ways to kind of slice and dice where teams are at different points in the season and all the different factors that go into seeding as well. So obviously we'll get into a little bit of the science behind the college basketball tournament time in our last segment with our guest. But I was just interested from your perspective and from other basketball players' perspective if you thought that RU had enough offensive firepower to be able to sustain. So lastly, one other thing wanted to bring up is in regards to the Penn State game, there was a report that came out of some racist chants that were going on. And I heard some stuff throughout the game. Yeah. And I don't want to pinpoint it in regards to like trying to bash on or pile on a team.
Right.
Have you ever experienced that? Did you hear anything about the feedback that players were experiencing? Because that's never acceptable, obviously. Right. You go out there to play for the university, and we're in 2023. People got to get past stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I don't think I ever heard anything. I'm sure something's been screamed before. When I'm playing, I don't really, you hear the crowd noise, but you don't hear the words being said, if that makes sense. So I think I was always like pretty locked in that sense. I remember seeing a video like last year or 2 years ago where someone screamed something at Cliff at Wisconsin. So that was like the one time where I really saw it or heard it, I guess. I heard it on the video. Penn State's always been kind of, they get a little rowdy or whatever you want to call it. But, I don't remember ever hearing anything like awful. But obviously you don't ever want to hear that at any arena. That is, there's, like you said, there's just no place for it. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't really make sense, like why you would do it. So I don't love that if it's true. And hopefully they learn from it and, move on, because that stuff stays with you. Even if it doesn't, if you don't really, you can brush it off, but you're still gonna remember it. Like I've gotten racist DMs all the time, and I brush it off, but it's still like, damn, like someone really hates you that much.
That's wild to me.
To say something like that, you know what I'm saying? So
that people obviously know who you are, and they probably support the idea, or at least the program that you're affiliated with.
Right.
But still, there's this inherent hatred within, that they still can't identify and get over. So that's the thing that was just going through my mind when I was hearing things is Penn State has black players on their team.
Right.
And black football players that these people are going out and supporting, but
yep.
You're throwing racist chants at the opposing group that are applicable to the people on the team that you're rooting for as well. So, I mean, obviously I'm not trying to stand on a soapbox, but at the end of the day, I'm hoping that that's something that it's changed and we can get further and further away,
Yeah, I think
over the years to come. So
you just got to remember that, everybody, like, we're still people. Like this is people that you're yelling at, human beings. And I think basketball and football too, I think has gotten to a point where it's like people are just looking at these college players as just strictly entertainment, and it's like you kind of forget
robots,
who they are as people.
No emotion, no feeling.
And I could get deep into this, man, but I'm gonna try not to. But that's part of the reason why I wanted to fight for NIL too, though, is like, recognizing each person for who they are individually, and I think that's really important.
Love it. And we'll switch over and conclude that now and be joined in a moment by no other than Brad Wattell for our scouting report segment, looking ahead to RU and their two final games for the remainder of this season. I think two really good opportunities for them to really solidify seeding going into the Big Ten tournament. Brad, what's up, man?
What's up, man?
What's up, guys?
How are you?
Doing?
I'm doing great. Geo, we've never met before.
We have not, but I used to keep track of all. Listen, last year was a roller coaster for us. I was looking at all the bracketology, man. I know your work too well from last year.
I appreciate it, and I know your work as well. Trust me.
I appreciate that. Also, if you don't mind, I want to ask Brad the first question.
After this introduction, just to set the table,
go ahead.
And over to you, my G.
Go ahead.
So, joined by Brad Wattell, who was the former, it was the DOBO, right? Director of Basketball Operations, Brad?
I was Director of Basketball Administration, and then I was also a team manager back in back when Gary Waters was coaching in 2001 to 2005.
Sheesh. So obviously a RU guy through and through. You
10 years part of the men's basketball program.
Love to see it, love to hear it. And then now you have transitioned into the world of becoming one of the most respected bracketologists out there. I'm really, really proud to see everything that's going on with you, Brad. So really happy that you were able to join us this afternoon. And Geo, over to you.
All right, Brad, I got a question, man. So obviously we got a lot of Rutgers listeners right now, and I want to either ease their minds straight off the jump or give them something to panic about. Is there a scenario? Is there any scenario where Rutgers does not get into the tournament that you see?
There is a scenario. So if they lose out, losing at Minnesota would be another bad loss on their resume. They currently have 3 bad losses, and that's a loss. That's three Q3 losses.
Yep.
So Minnesota would be another Q3 loss, which would put them at 4. No other team in the field has that many bad losses. Now, that being said, they have a lot of good on their resume that's going to keep them in. So if they happen to lose that game, lose against Northwestern at home, and then lose the first game in the conference tournament, then all of a sudden, I'm not saying they're out. It's going to depend on how other teams do, bubble teams do. So it kind of is open-ended at that point. If I had to guess right now, I'd say they'll be in regardless. But you don't want to leave it to chance.
Definitely don't want to leave it to chance.
You hear that, RU Nation? Calm down. It's looking good. We just got to take care of business over the next 2. Did you have a chance, Brad, to tune into the Penn State game? What were your feelings about RU's chances in the first half? What were your feelings about RU chances after there was 0 seconds on the clock?
I was nervous because what the committee is looking at, they're looking at how Rutgers is playing without Mawot Mag. And had they lost that game, it would have been 1-5 without him in the lineup. And they're clearly not the same team without him. But it's so important. What that second half did, it shows the committee that we may not be the team that we were back when we beat one at Purdue, but we're not the team that we were the previous couple weeks after the key injury. So I think that's something that was so important. And I can't say I'm shocked that they came back because, watching Coach Peichel's teams over the years, they never give up. They fight. They play hard. They defend. I was definitely a little bit in shock the way Penn State kind of just forced threes the entire second half. Like, what are you doing?
They completely broke down.
But a part of that is because of the way Rutgers defended, and finally Rutgers was able to make some shots in the second half, and the momentum changed. And you guys know how momentum is. It's a crazy thing.
Yeah, for sure.
It's everything in the game of basketball. Teams are going to go on runs. I feel like it's about being opportunistic and making sure that you're playing the right basketball at the right time in a contest. 2 games remaining for RU. You got Minnesota, 7-20 overall, 1-16 in the Big Ten. I would imagine, barring an unforeseen Big Ten tournament run, that those guys don't have a chance of making it in at this point in the year. And then Northwestern as well, who's been playing really good basketball. So let's look at 2 different scenarios. If they go 1-1 over the next 2, where do you see RU potentially be seated? If they win 2 games, does that change anything either?
Sure. So right now I currently have Rutgers as an 8 seed. They're really like my second number 8 seed. So if they lose to Minnesota and beat Northwestern, the loss to Minnesota is going to knock them down 1 to 2 seeds. Again, depending on how the other 9 seeds and 10 seeds and 11 seeds play, it could be 1 seed, it could be a 2 seed drop. And then if they beat Northwestern, they could get back up 1 seed. So you're looking at like a 9 or a 10 seed heading into the Big Ten tournament. And then depending on how they do in the Big Ten tournament, if you win a couple games, you could improve by a seed or 2. But the crazy thing about the conference tournaments and doing bracketology for a number of years, what the committee does, they seem to not really pay attention to what goes on Saturday and Sunday prior to Selection Sunday. It seems like they kind of have their bracket set. So if you're a team that, your seed is not really going to change a whole lot, even if they happen to win the Big Ten tournament, I can see them getting as high as a 5 seed. Not any higher than that though. So that's one scenario. The other scenario, probably the preferred scenario is to beat Minnesota. And if you're going to lose a game, you lose to Northwestern. It's just a quad 2 loss. It doesn't really affect you a whole lot.
Yeah.
You're looking at an 8 or 9 seed going into the conference tournament. As long as you don't lose to a team like a Minnesota, you should still be in that 8 or 9 range come Selection Sunday.
Making it sound like smooth sailing right now, man. I love that. Sounds a lot better than what we had going on last year. I want to ask you about the net because, and maybe you don't even really get it. I don't know because it seems like nobody really understands it. And obviously, last year we were like the extreme anomaly when it came to the net. Mm-hmm. So how does the net work? Do you know?
So first of all, the committee has not released the formula for the net.
Okay.
So which is interesting in itself. But over the years, you kind of you figure out how things work.
Yeah.
For example, last year, you guys, when you had your losing to Lafayette, the non-conference schedule wasn't particularly strong at all, and there were a lot of close games. There weren't many blowouts. As a result, your net was very poor. That was a big part of it. This year, a very similar non-conference strength of schedule, but they beat teams by 30 and 40.
Killing them.
And obviously not having that bad loss is huge, but I don't want to say, running up the score helps your net, but it does.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. And then as well as how you perform against, the quadrants. Winning away from home is much more important than winning at home. Yeah. And, Rutgers last year and a couple years before that, Rutgers is always a great home team.
Yep.
And the road is it's gotten so much better, trust me, as you know.
Yeah.
But the road, and I think particularly the fact that Rutgers really hasn't played any neutral site games over the last few years. Their preseason tournaments are basically 4 games at home. So they're 4 likely wins, but you're not able to pick up any wins away from home before, unless you have a scheduled game against a high major team or conference play.
Right.
So I think that kind of hurts a little bit. So picking up wins away from home will increase your net. But yeah, it's definitely a mystery, the net. And people are always going to have gripes about it. Before the net, there was the RPI. People had issues with that.
Yeah.
Fortunately, last year, Rutgers getting in with the worst net ever.
Yeah.
The committee did the right thing because no matter what your net is like, what's most important is who have you beaten and the number of quality wins and high quality wins that you guys had last year. You deserve to be in.
For sure. No, I appreciate that insight though, because I'm still trying to figure it out, man, and I know a lot of people are too. So that definitely helps a lot. I want to ask you one more question too about the Big Ten. How many teams do you see in the field right now for the Big Ten Conference?
So right now I have 9 teams in, with Michigan and Penn State on the outside looking in. If Penn State, had they beat Rutgers, probably would have been in my last 4 in. So that loss was a killer for them.
Yeah. They knew it too. They knew it.
Yeah.
You could see it on their faces.
Oh yeah. And then Michigan, who the way their conference schedule worked out, it was top heavy at the bottom at the end of their schedule. So they finished with at Illinois and at Indiana. Mm-hmm. Now they're going to need to win at least one of those games to have a shot because they have a Q4 loss. Their numbers in the quadrants aren't particularly strong. The win at Rutgers was huge for them. It kind of kept them alive, kept them afloat. They're in my first 4 out. They're going to have to win at least one of those games. If not, probably not happening for their sake. And then the team that's really in question right now is Wisconsin.
Yeah.
They are in right now as one of my last teams in. Their net is in the 70s. The thing that they have going for them is that they have 6 quadrant 1 wins. And they're 6-6, which is, for a bubble team, that's very good. And they finish with Purdue at home. And then they go to, they're on the road somewhere. I forgot off the top of my head. I think they go to Minnesota actually. Okay. So as long as if they can beat Purdue, getting a 7th Q1 win really will increase their chances of getting in.
Yeah.
But again, like Rutgers last year, if your net is in the 70s, it's
tough.
It's tough. You're coming down to Selection Sunday, so they need to keep winning. They're 2 games under 500 in conference play. even though conference record doesn't mean a whole lot when it comes to selection, they haven't been playing particularly great. It seems like they keep going loss, win, loss, win, loss, win. And they're, from my point of view, the eye test don't particularly look like a tournament team, but the eye test doesn't really matter when it comes to selection. That's
awesome, man. I appreciate that commentary, if you will. Couple follow-ups on that. Knowing what you know and kind of going through this process, have you seen any particular seeds when it comes to the NCAA tournament to be more favorable as opposed to other ones, higher or lower, that could potentially be a kiss of death for people who don't take care of business towards the end of the year?
Well, if I'm Rutgers, I want to avoid the 8-9 game. I'd rather have the 7. I'd rather be a 10. I'd rather be a 10 than an 8 seed because you want to avoid the 1 seed in the second round. That's one particular reason. And actually looking at the locations and everything for this coming tournament, the ideal location would be to play in Albany and be in the East region at Madison Square Garden. Unfortunately, the preferred locations are only for the top 4 seeds for the NCAA tournament. But, there's the chance that could still happen, even if you are a 7, 8, 9, or 10 seed. And if you're an 8 or 9 seed, they're not going to put you with Purdue, who is currently a 1 seed. They're not going to have you play Purdue in the second round. So if you're an 8 or 9 seed and you're looking at who your second round opponent could be, you're looking at Alabama, you're looking at Kansas, and you're looking at Houston. I'm sure Rutgers would love a rematch with Houston.
I would.
But yeah, I'm sure. But I think avoiding that 8-9 game is important, just so I think there's a little bit of a separation between maybe between the 1 seeds and then maybe, the 2 seeds are pretty strong too, but I still think there's a little bit of a separation between the 2. So avoiding that would be important. Other than that, no. Even like we say 10 seed, an 11 seed is not bad as long as you're avoiding Dayton and don't have to play that extra game. You're the 11, you play the 6, then you play the 3. You're always trying to look at your path to get to where we all want to get to. And I think just avoiding that 8-9 game is huge because of course it's possible for an 8-9 to beat a 1 seed. It's happened before, but you don't want to be in that situation.
Respect that. Obviously, that first 4 game in is a beast, man. Electric, but it makes a little bit more of a high-pressure situation for teams entering that predicament. Give me your final 4 at this point.
Wow, okay. Ooh. So I think this year I could definitely see not too many number 1 seeds, even though I just said the 1 seeds are strong. I could see not a lot of 1 seeds being in the final 4. I definitely like UCLA to be there. They're currently my top 2 seed. And another 2 seed that I have is Baylor. I think they'll be there as well. I think there's going to be a team that's in the 5 seed range that'll be there. And right now I really like Miami. Even though they just had an awful loss to Florida State, I feel like their guard play, to win, you got to have guard play. And I think they have what it takes. We saw what they did last year in getting to the Elite 8, not the same exact team, but they might be better. Granted, playing in the ACC, we know how the ACC is. The bottom half of that league is bad. Yeah. But I think I could see a high ceiling for that team. And then my 4th team, I will say, let me just take a look right now.
Check the notes.
Gotta check the notes.
Take your time.
I'm going to go with UConn.
Wow. I mean, I get it. I get it. But also,
I'm going to go with UConn.
No Big Ten representation for yet another year.
Oh, that's what we need to talk about. We need to talk about that, actually. Why does the Big Ten always suck? Well, I'm going to just say it. They're trash. The Big Ten is trash in the NCAA tournament. Why is that?
Is it the style of play? Is it that every single game that you guys that's in the Big Ten, it's a battle. Every game is a battle. Maybe that takes something out of you. I don't know. I don't think it doesn't.
I don't think so.
That's
I keep
the
hearing,
general excuse.
I always hear it. I know
that.
that's the general excuse. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And listen, I was there. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that when I got to the NCAA tournament, I'm pumped up. Like I'm not tired. There's no being tired at that point. So I don't think it's that. I do think it's the style of play. But I wanted to hear your take on it.
Yeah, I would say the style of play is most important. I mean, you always see a team, like in the past, you always saw a team like Syracuse who would get in the tournament, even if they were like an 11 seed, they would end up in the Sweet 16 and or make a run just because of the way they play.
Yeah.
It's all about matchups. So even like when the committee is selecting the teams, they don't do it by conference. They do it by individual resume. So part of that maybe is random, but I think I tend to agree. Just the fact that it's so rugged, and the different styles of play with the different leagues. Maybe that's the reason, but your guess is as good as mine, of course.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that I want to keep trying to evaluate in my head because I just can't figure it out because the Big Ten is obviously a super strong conference every year, getting 9-10 teams in, but then they just don't perform once it comes time. And we were actually talking about it earlier on the podcast. I think the Big Ten is the most highly scouted league in the country too. I think Big Ten teams do a great job of scouting each other out. But obviously in the NCAA tournament, it's a very short turnaround time. So you don't get that same opportunity to scout your opponent the same way that you do in conference play. So you don't get a chance to defend them a certain type of way. So I think that plays a part in it as well.
There's no question. And I watch every Rutgers game. I know that when the opposing team calls out a play, you guys know what's coming.
We're screaming it. We're screaming it.
You're screaming it. You guys know what defense to play. And, that's a huge part of why you guys have always been so good defensively.
Right.
You're prepared.
Exactly.
You're more prepared than probably any other team in the league that I watch. And that even if sometimes you don't have the most talent, as people might say, or that's changing though, for sure.
For sure.
Being prepared is like ridiculous. I mean, Austin, obviously,
On that point, Brad, obviously this has been a year that's historical from a defensive standpoint for this RU team. Has there ever been a team from a profile standpoint that's this dominant defensively, but up and down offensively that's been able to make a significant run in the NCAA tournament, to your knowledge? And maybe you just don't know. That's completely fine.
Yeah. So I would say Virginia is probably the team that comes to mind. The year that they lost as a 1 seed, they were top 5 nationally in defense. And from an offensive standpoint, they weren't great and they got eliminated early. Now, obviously, a couple of years ago when they won it all, they were much better offensively. I think Rutgers, it's a little bit of an anomaly because they're the only team that's in, I think, the top 60, 70 of KenPom that has an offensive efficiency that's, I think, close to 150. It's much worse than all these other teams. So it's such a contrasting numbers that you just don't see every day. But I think if you gotta play defense to advance. But I think we've seen on occasions that Rutgers is definitely capable offensively.
Yep,
just a matter of being consistent.
Respect it. And lastly, from me, from your perspective, taking off the bracketology hat and putting your Rutgers basketball fan hat back on, what do you think of, what's been developed at RU over the last couple of years? Obviously, we've been together in the doldrums of RU hoops, and obviously it's in a much better place today. So what do you make of that?
Yeah, and I've been through it through 3 different coaches. So I can really appreciate what Coach Michael has done. It's not easy. Yeah. But what I appreciate the most is, he's not going out and just getting, the top of the line player. He's getting the right player for his system that is going to play extremely hard, wants to get better, will run through a brick wall for him. And he does it the right way. It's something that, I've always felt this school was a sleeping giant, and a lot of people did. But we just couldn't get out of our own way for a number of different reasons. And every coach that preceded him, I won't go into it now, but there were things that got in the way. There were times where in certain regimes we felt like we had a chance to really break through, and it just never happened. But what's been done is amazing. And, the RU fans, the loyal fans that have stuck through, all these years of futility, and losses, and there's been some good wins over the years. They've seen the rack, Jersey Mike's, sold out, Rutgers crowds. AJ, you remember, of course, when we beat Florida, when
Villanova.
we beat Villanova. Like there were times, but it was not consistent like it's been. Now. I was at the game against Michigan, not the result we wanted, but that crowd, like the first 5 minutes of the game, was insane. Yeah. I just think everything from the coaching staff to the marketing department to everywhere in the athletic department, everyone's taking it up a notch. Because you need everybody's help, and I think it's just amazing to see, and it's going to keep going. There's no reason for it to stop at this point, especially with the recruiting class that's coming in. So it's going to be exciting.
You ain't lying, man.
Well,
I think that's perfect. Appreciate the insight, my guy, and you joining. Glad we had a chance to catch up at that last game, and continue to do your thing, man. I'm gonna be locked in on your projections, and hopefully you're wrong about some of these Big Ten teams making it deep in the NCAA tournament this year. But thank you, Brad, for joining us, and everybody joining us on this episode of the Are You Listening podcast, brought to you by New Amendment. Check us out after the next 2 games where RU will be battling against Minnesota and Northwestern. All right, we'll check you guys then.
Beyond the Big Ten is a network of podcasts that aims to be your go-to resource for all things Big Ten. We cover the entire conference with shows hosted by ex-players and athletic alumni, aiming to be your go-to source of information and entertainment for your favorite team. Hosted by ex-Big Ten players, media, and insiders, our podcasts are focused on giving diehard fans and those alums an inside scoop about the teams and people that make the Big Ten Conference one of the most watched and most talked about conferences in sports. We're excited to talk Big Ten basketball with you wherever you may be. Subscribe now.